Shalom and welcome to the Middle East Report. In this program today we have an exclusive interview with the Reverend Majed El Shafie, who has produced a very powerful and moving documentary about October the 7th called Dying to Live. And Majed, it's an absolute pleasure that you can join us from Toronto today to discuss your remarkable and powerful film about October the 7th, Dying to Live, which I watched this morning, and it still had a big impact and impression on me, and I'm sure those who watch it, it will have a profound impact on them as well. So just start with us with your remarkable journey of growing up in a predominant Egyptian family that had a political and legal influence in the state of Egypt.
Thank you for having me. I was born in 1977 from a wonderful Muslim family back home in Egypt. My father was a lawyer, my brother is a lawyer, my uncle is a judge in the Egyptian Supreme Court. The majority of my family worked in the political careers and in legal careers. When I was born in you can imagine when majority of your family is lawyers and judges. In my bedroom was library full of books about law, human rights, justice, freedom, liberty. I believed in every and each one of these books. I read each and every one of these books. When I finished my high school to went to the law school in Alexandria to become a lawyer like the rest of my family, that's when the persecution that's happening to the Christian minority in Egypt shocked me to the core. Right now, as me and you talking in this beautiful studio, there is between 6,000 to 7,000 Christians, Egyptians, they are in prison just because they are Christians. Between, in the international world, between 200 to 300 million persecuted Christians worldwide, the majority of them in the Muslim countries. All of these facts make me wonder why there is persecution happening to the Christians. Let me put it in a very, very clear statement. You don't persecute somebody unless you are scared from the truth that they carry. Why? Because they do not persecute us, they persecute Christ in us. And that's made me research, try to understand as a Muslim young man. And that's when I started to read the Bible. And the first time I read the Bible through my best friend Tamer, who was a Christian and I was a Muslim. And I went to him and I told him, Tamer, you know, I need to understand why. So he gave me the Bible, was my first Bible. And first time I read the Bible was John 8, when they brought the lady who committed adultery, throw her in front of the Lord, and told him, if you are really son of God, judge her according to the law of Moses. Now, the Lord started right down by the sand by his finger, repeated the question again. And he told them, who without sin cast the first stone? Now think about it. The only one who have no sin is Christ himself, because he is the only one have no sin. Absolutely. He's the only one who can cast the first stone. But he didn't. He looked back to this lady and told her, go sin no more, I forgive you. And this was my first time I was introduced to Christ, to his love, to sacrifice. His whole philosophy of life based and built on forgiveness and based on sacrifice. And many people will ask me, what's the difference between Islam and Christianity, for example? And you have to understand that there is between 300 to 400 difference between Islam and Christianity. I'm sure that the show will not be able to take that. I need 45 days to explain it. But I always tell the people just one sentence, the difference between Islam and Christianity. The main, just one sentence. The God of Islam sent your children to die for him. But the God of Christianity sent his son to die for you. And that's in a very, very, very clear, focused statement and different. All of this led for me to convert from Islam to Christianity, build a human rights organization underground in Egypt. Within 2 years, my organization grew up to become 24,000 people in just underground, asking the Egyptian government to give us equal rights, building churches, building medical clinic, Bible schools, and so on. And that's led to my arrest in August 15, 1998. I was arrested by the Egyptian authority. I was tortured very severely for 7 days in Abu Zabal prison. I was hanged upside down. The nail of my toe was grabbed I was crucified for 2.5 days. They released 3 dogs to attack me, and God stopped the dogs. The Lord closed the dog's mouth. They didn't attack me. The opposite, they came and licked me. Because the God of yesterday, He's the same God today, and He's the same God tomorrow and forever.
Amen.
If you think miracles can happen only in the past or in the Bible, miracles still happening every day. I was very severely wounded. I spent 3 months in the hospital. I couldn't move. And after that, they put me in house arrest. I received the death penalty for my belief. And I remember when I was in front of the judge, it's a military court, not regular court, not civilian court. No lawyer, no, it's a kangaroo court, like, you know, they know already. And I was charged with 3 charges: that I tried to change the official religion of Egypt from Islam to Christianity. I tried to make revolution against the Egyptian government, and I love and I worship Christ. And let me tell you what I told the judge in this day. If loving Christ is wrong, I don't want to be right. And if worshiping Him is a crime, I'm guilty as charged, Your Honor. That's when I received the death penalty, just for the statement as well. I was able to escape from my house arrest 4 hours before the death penalty. My team that I raised was able to attack where I was and was able to free me. Escaped to Alexandria, from Alexandria to Sinai. And if you know the map of the Middle East very well, Egypt surrounded by Arab Muslim countries. You try to escape to any of this country, exactly the same thing will happen to you. There is one country, not Arab, not Muslim country, which is Israel. What did I know about Israel at this time? Really nothing. I knew that the enemy of my enemy is my friends. Very simple math. I went to Taba. I hid with a Bedouin family for 2-3 months. I stole jet ski from Taba, Egypt, Hilton Taba. Some of the viewers will say, but you're reverend, you're a man of God, how could you steal a jet ski? I stole the jet ski and I'm proud of it, just FYI. And it wasn't very difficult, by the way, but anyway. I stole the jet ski, I crossed from Taba to Eilat, in front of Princess Hotel in Eilat. And that's when I surrendered to the Israeli police. And God used Israel to save my life. And that's why Israel, till today, have a very special place in my heart.
Amazing. So also share with us how the Lord gave you a love for Israel and the Jewish people as well. You know, coming from your very prestigious Muslim Egyptian background, knowing that with your education system and knowing what Egypt's like, despite the fact that you were just born a couple of years before the Camp David peace accords were signed between Egypt and Israel, there was still that hatred towards Israel within the general population in Egypt, even within the kind of elites within Egypt as well, the education system. How God gave you a love for Israel through the scriptures, but also from the fact that you owe your life to the Israelis today.
I owe my life to the Lord, who saved my life 100%, and He used many reasons, including Israel, to save my life. I want to make this very clear. But I would tell you something. Start with a mother. Start with my mother, who prevent me from hating anybody. Let me tell you just a small story when I was 9 years old.
Of course.
I was in a history class, and the teacher came and he started speak about that one day there will be another war with Israel. That's after the peace. And he called what we have with Israel right now just a hudna, temporary peace. So I raised my hand up, and I told him, I'm sorry, I'm 9 years old. I told him, I'm sorry, I don't understand why we're talking about war if we have peace with Israel. 9 years old. And my punishment, because just asking this question, that I was hit 5 times in my hand, in each hand, with a stick. I went to home crying to my mother, and my mother said, why are you crying? I said, I'm not crying because it hurts me. I'm crying because I was punished for, I don't know what I was punished for. And my mom sat down with me with her beautiful eyes, may she rest in peace. She said, son, we don't hate anybody. We don't hate Jews, we don't hate Christians, we don't hate anybody. This simple woman. Next day she went to the school and she grabbed the teacher from his tie, and as any Egyptian mother will do, she kicked his behind, long story short. But start with a mother, and after that, when I become a Christian and I understand the history and the Christianity, and our Lord himself was a Jewish, and to understand the history of knowing my background as legal, also to understand that there was never a state by the called Palestine. There was never exist. Actually, when part of the movie, when we had a meeting with the Palestinians, they couldn't ask a simple question about if the temple was exist before the mosque, isn't this mean that the Jews was before you here in the land? So they couldn't answer, but also this love, not just by words, because it's easy to say I love you, but when there is an action, when October 7 happened, I had to step in and I had to take an action. The Bible said faith without action is a dead faith. And that's how Dying to Live was born.
Amazing. So share with us the vision the Lord gave you for One Free World International Ministry, that you focus on human rights abuses. You've done a lot of work campaigning on behalf of Christians and the Yazidis who have been persecuted by ISIS, other plights of persecutions against Christians across the Middle East. You know, I've even spoken up for the Uyghurs in China as well. So share with us the vision the Lord's given you for this ministry and how important it is to stand up for minorities who are being persecuted for their faith across the Islamic world.
When I created One Free World International, I was just arrived to Canada and I only had $100 in my pocket. Now I have 50, so it's get worse. I'm joking. But in general, I had to do something to help people that was in the same place like me. When you are introduced to the persecution, and you have to understand that this is in the Bible, maybe our churches in the West, in Canada or England or United States or Europe, does not preach much about the persecution because it's out of the comfort zone. But we have to understand persecution is a promise in the Bible. If you follow me, you carry a cross on your shoulder. So the persecution that I saw, I had two options. Once you know of the problem, or you become part of the problem or the heart of the solution. And I wanted to be part of the solution and the heart of the solution. That's when we created One Free World International. Now we're in 28 different countries, by the grace of God. And we are in every war zone. So in Ukraine, Syria and Iraq, Armenia and Azerbaijan, Sudan, wherever there is a war zone, we will always be there to defend the truth and defend the minorities that facing persecution, such as well in the war in Gaza and now in Syria and so on. We have to be there to protect God's name and to protect God's territory and His word in the Bible. But we saw that the persecution, we will not only fight for the Christians. I want to fight against anti-Semitism. I want to fight even against any persecution happening to any minorities, because that's the testimony. When we rescued 600 Yazidi girls from ISIS' hand, many of these girls came to the Lord because they saw the love of Christ in action, not just in words.
Absolutely.
So even when we went to Israel, even when we was helping with the movie and showing the truth and fighting for Israel, we did it in Jesus' name. They need to know that we are Christians, we are coming to help. Well, I'm not ashamed of my belief, and I will never be ashamed of my belief. It's the opposite. I am here, and I'm in love with Israel, and I'm in love with the Jewish people, not because of my background, not because who I am, and not because the color of my skin. It's because Christ in my heart. Let's just make this very clear. And if Christ can change a heart of a Muslim, that everything in his society told him to hate Israel, this is a testimony that only Christ is the true Prince of Peace.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And also show us how your remarkable journey has taken you before the Canadian Parliament. You've even addressed the US Congress. You've won two very impressive and distinctive awards back in 2016, the Raoul Wallenberg Citation for Moral Courage. And in 2012, you won the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal.
My first award and my best medal that I ever received was the scars that I have on my back from the torture. Medals is made by men for men. Mankind, I mean. I don't mean just men. I'm honored to receive them, but seriously, the best medal that I received in my life was the scars on my back. And I will carry this with me to my grave. And it's only by the grace of God. I don't think that I'm capable in accomplishing any of the above if God was not with me. That's all what I have to say about that.
Amazing. Well, thank you for what you do, because it's absolutely essential. But this brings us on to October the 7th and your documentary. Share with us where you were on October the 7th, the biggest mass terrorist attack in Israel's history, committed by Hamas. We're talking about between 5,000 or 7,000 Hamas terrorists on the rampage that committed absolute murder, evil and carnage on that day. When did you become aware of it, and kind of what's your response to it?
I became aware of it an hours after the attack. And in the beginning, like the majority of the world, we thought that this is just a movie. We thought it's just a propaganda. We never saw this as true. It shocked all of us. Rape, kidnap, burning children alive in their crib, killing, beheading. We saw the whole live stream from Hamas. Was not the biggest shock, believe it or not. For me, on a personal level, was not my biggest shock. Because, as I said, we worked before in Syria and Iraq and all Muslim extremist areas. And it was exactly a duplication of what ISIS did in Iraq and Syria. So, my biggest shock was how the world reacted to it. And in the beginning, the world had some sympathy to Israel for the first 2 to 3 days. And after that, it just turned around. My shock was when they took the half-naked girl back again to Gaza, and you can see people celebrating around a dead body, a naked girl, a naked Jewish girl that was dead, and people were celebrating, giving candy to each other in Gaza. My shock is how to see our schools, our streets in London, in Toronto, in Montreal, in New York, in Washington, in Paris, against Israel. My shock is how to see our Western society reacted to October 7. And I need to tell you something very important. The big question, these people that you see them demonstrating, my question to them, where have you been? Where have you been when Iran was killing their own people? Because just an Iranian woman show a little bit hair under her hijab. Or when Bashar al-Assad was killing his own people. Or Saudi Arabia was attacking Yemen. Or China, when they was killing more than 1 million Uyghur and putting the Muslim Uyghur and putting them in a concentration camp. Where have you been? Where have you been right now when Alawiyin and Christians and Druze being killed in Syria? Right now, as me and you having this interview, more than 30,000 Alawiyins and Druze being killed and Christians in Syria right now. Right now. Where have you been? And they tell you, we are asking for free Gaza. I will join you. I am willing to join you. I am willing to join your demonstration. I also want free Gaza. But let's free Gaza from Hamas.
Absolutely. And one you didn't mention, which I think is also very powerful, that recently we've seen a protest against Hamas. And these are residents in Gaza protesting at the absolutely barbaric and tyrannical rule of Hamas. Because we know the devastation and the destruction that we've seen in Gaza lies purely at the hands of Hamas.
Simon, if there is an election today in Gaza and the West Bank, you need to understand that Hamas will win the election, fair and square.
Yep.
So let's just make this very clear. Maybe there is demonstrations here and there, maybe some people is upset about that or this, but I can tell you by fact right now, if there is a demonstration if there is an election right now in Gaza and West Bank, Hamas will win. When I'm saying, I will just continue what I was saying earlier. When I was saying free Gaza from Hamas, let's free Gaza from an organization, use their own people as a human shield. They knew for 2 years that October 7 will happen. They didn't build one shelter above ground to their own people while they are building tunnels under, using every resources for their own fighters instead of the people, instead of building schools and proper hospitals. All the leadership in Qatar drinking champagne and eating caviar and womanizing. Let's free Gaza from Hamas. A terrorist organization does not respect their own people. Women's rights, children's rights, education rights, not even LGBT community rights. So let's fight.
Majed, we really do need to see that Gaza will be free of Hamas, and that's the only way I fundamentally believe that the people of Gaza can have a brighter future. But share with us your decision and your vision behind this incredibly powerful and emotionally compelling documentary film that you produced with Chris Atkins called Dying to Live, about October 7th.
A week after the October 7 massacre took place, I decided to go to Israel, and we have friendship with the Israeli state, with the prime minister, with the foreign affairs, and so on and so forth offices. So we was able to go directly to Israel a week after, and after that we landed. I went to the kibbutzim. I hired immediately camera crew, Israeli camera crew locals. And we went to the kibbutzim, we went with the IDF to the border with Gaza. We was able to sit down with some of the survivors. And I started to create this mini movies. So when I came back again to Canada, I went to Chris, and I know Chris for many years, and we did together many work and many documentaries. I told him, Chris, we have to do this. Not as a mini clips, but I would like to do a full-scale movie. And we put it together, and Chris is just genius. He's a young director and just wonderful by all means. And that's how Dying to Live was created. My vision for the movie is to focus on the human emotion of October 7 and the survivors and the victims, but not only that, to bring also leaders from the Christian community, and we have a partnership with the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem and Bridges for Peace, both of them wonderful organizations, and also Muslim leaders and Jewish leaders. And it was very balanced movie, because we didn't only just focus on one opinion, but we focus on the human element. Regardless what you think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, let's talk about October 7. I'm not talking about what's happened before. I'm not talking about what's happening after. I'm talking about October 7. Because there is a lot of people right now using this as a propaganda, what we call it white noises, and distract you from the main issue. The main issue that October 7 was one day of a Holocaust. October 7 was a massacre. October 7 was wrong, and we have to condemn it, and we have to stand beside Israel.
Absolutely. So let's have a look at this remarkable trailer called Dying to Live that details the accounts of the horrors that took place back on October the 7th, 2023.
We are here in Siren, in Tel Aviv, and you can see the people running.
Started running over there to the shelter, just surrounding people, screaming, kids crying.
Saw a video that Hamas uploaded of my cousin's son Erez in their hands. They were kind of dragging him down the road holding both his arms at gunpoint. And I think that's when the nightmare became real.
You can see here the bedroom. Bullets, machine guns, and this used to be a bed. Children used to sleep in this bed.
For the past few years, we've been looking with a lot of hope to a new Middle East. We're peaceful people. We don't want to fight a war. We're fighting a war that we have no choice but to fight.
This interview will be a very tough interview.
Her name is Adi. She is our middle daughter. I don't want to get into the details or imagination what happened.
15 years old, lost her life. The Hamas terrorists burned the house outside, and he just shot her father, shot her mom.
We felt helpless, completely. We didn't know what to do. It was my brother being led by a terrorist, he was holding a gun with one hand and was holding my brother in a headlock on the other hand.
So much pain and suffering. And I really hope that the world would understand.
This isn't just about Jews, and it's not just about Israel. This is about evil.
And if you thought you knew about October the 7th, you haven't until you've watched this groundbreaking documentary called Dying to Live, which does give that detailed account as well as the personal accounts of what happened on that day. I've got to really commend you and your team for such a powerful and compelling documentary, because not only did you produce a documentary, but you're also providing historical evidence of the biggest mass terrorist attack that's happened in Israel's history. This is the biggest massacre of Jewish people in one single day since the Holocaust over 80 years ago. And it's so important to have those personal testimonies and stories. And I was very touched with the survivor of the Nova Music Festival who you interviewed, who said that she hid under a tank for 7 hours, despite the fact that she was shot. And she tells her story. Share with us how you managed to put this whole documentary together, how you interviewed the survivors of October the 7th from the Nova Music Festival, to the family members of those who actually lost loved ones, and also being there just so fresh after the devastation, 1 week. I mean, I visited a few months later and that was bad enough, but to be a week after the horrors of October the 7th must still have a huge psychological impact on you.
I can tell you, I still have nightmares about it. After I put the movie together and I witnessed, and we did a couple of showing in Toronto with the Jewish and the Christian community, I decided that I will not watch the movie again. I couldn't, like, it was just have great impact on me. I would say that the people felt the love. And the people wanted really a voice, especially from the Middle East. The movie have very unique position because the creator of the movie is an Egyptian. Is not a Jewish, is not a white guy, is not American, is not, is an Egyptian background. And this is literally was the movie that we needed to stop the propaganda machine that was going around October 7th. And it had this impact. And right now, as me and you talking, we are trying to duplicate the movie in Arabic, in Urdu, and in Persian. So October 7 of 2025, we can show it in Arab countries. Because we have to change the main reason how I created this movie. We have to change the mindset. Not just the mindset of the West, but the mindset of the Muslims, the mindset of the Arab. We have to fight the ideology. You can kill 100 Yahya Sinwar. You can kill 100 Hassan Nasrallah, the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. But another 100, another 500 will show up. Fighting the ideology, the mentality, is the only way really to win the war.
Absolutely. And share with us how important it was to have those personal testimonies. And what I loved about your movie is your own personal touch in that movie, particularly as we look at that harrowing scene of the site of the Nova Music Festival, and you just gave a hug to the families of those who had lost their daughter by the hands of Hamas in probably the most horrific manner possible. But you showed that empathy, you showed that love, and it showed that you really do care passionately about Israel and the Jewish people. And coming from a kind of former Muslim perspective, that came across so powerfully as well.
They become my families. Talking about like a case like Deferet, for example, Deferet Lepidot, the one that was killed in Nova, and now her father, her mom, her uncle, They are my family now, part of my family. But really the man that was hugging them and showing them this love, it wasn't Majed, it was Christ.
Amen.
And Christ using us, of course. But you have to understand this is the love of Christianity, and this is the love of Christ embracing even people that are wounded and hurt. I saw the miracles. I saw how God delivered them. I saw how God saved. This massacre could be way much bigger and much, much worse than we're seeing right now. And I can see the zeals of the Jewish people, but also how God protected Israel, as he did always through our history. But when we met with these hostages, like one of the father that was in the clip, he wouldn't talk to anybody for 5 days. The only person he spoke to was me. And as I'm leaving, I looked at him and I told him, would you forgive me? And he looked at me and was like, forgive you for what? I told him, because I know the man who killed your daughter, he looked like me. He have the same color skin like me. He speaks the same language like me. Would you forgive me? Would you stand with me in the gap? And this man hugged me and he cried for 20, 25 minutes on my shoulder. We have to reconcile. We have to show the love of Christ. And as an Egyptian, but above all as a Christian, I have to show the love of Christ, and I have to heal this wound and to be part of that.
I mean, but share with us your thoughts as well. I think what was so difficult in your situation, but also made the film so powerful, was when you visited Kibbutz Be'eri, and you saw firsthand the absolute devastation caused by Hamas. You're in one of those bedrooms of a family that were brutally murdered by Hamas on October the 7th. The blood was still on the walls, the blood was still on the floor, still on the bed, and probably that smell of rotting flesh was probably still there, and the carcasses and everything else you saw. But share with us how essentially this was just one massive crime scene that was massively underreported by our mainstream media, and the sheer scale of the horror that took place on that day.
I couldn't get rid of the smell for a week. It wasn't like in my nose, it was inside of me for a week. I couldn't get rid of the smell. The flesh, the blood was everywhere. It's not just about matter devastation. It was a war crime. It was really a war crime. I'm talking about, especially in this home, how it was a child that was blocking the door, and when the terrorist was able to push her and burn the house inside and shot her and kill people. I have an eyewitness. There's an Jewish organization that they will come and take the dead and clean them and so on. And one of them told me there was a pregnant woman. They killed the pregnant woman. They teared her stomach and killed the baby inside her womb with a knife. And this man, this is an elderly man, and he was like, cannot hold, he was crying. He just couldn't stop crying as he's describing this to me. I need to say something very important for everybody that's listening to us. We are not here to celebrate death. Not even the death of the Palestinian innocent children or the Palestinian innocent people. None of us, not me, not you, not the TV channel, not even Israelis that I know, the Jewish people that I know. Nobody ever sat down with me and said, I want all the Palestinians to be killed. I'm glad that the Palestinian kids is killed. Because I know when people watching our show right now, they tell you, what about the Palestinian kids? What about the Palestinian innocent? None of us wanted this to happen. We didn't start this war. Israel did not start this war. This was war that forced upon them. But there is one thing that's for sure, that what happened in October 7th to many children and many civilians, this was a war crime. And we are very sorry for every innocent Palestinians that was killed in this horrible war, but their blood on Hamas' hand. And that's very clear.
Absolutely. So let's have a look at another extract of this compelling and emotional film, Dying to Live.
first thing I realized just immediately was, that's it. She's dead.
I prayed to God and I said, please God, I don't want to die. Not like this.
My assumption is that she knew that she's in a horrific situation, but she didn't want to make her mother worry so much.
She told my mom that we were ambushed, the driver is dead, and I was shot on my arm, and if no one will come to rescue me, I'll die.
I was feeling like I'm wishing for my beautiful daughter. I was praying for her to die.
And at the last 10 minutes of the conversation, it's only the terrorist speaking. And just like that, Romy was vanished, like disappeared from Earth.
It's a shock. It's like somebody stole from you your heart. Great shock.
My name is Reverend Majed El Shafie. I'm the founder and president of One Free World International. I'm not an Israeli, I'm not a Jewish, I'm not a Palestinian, and I'm not a Muslim. I am a human being. I am Egyptian background, and I'm standing here in front of you with the massacre of October 7, the worst thing that happened to Israel and to the Jewish community since the Holocaust, have to be addressed. As an Egyptian, we are the traditional enemy of Israel. From the time of the pharaohs, all the way to Yom Kippur War. I stand in front of you as a defender of Israel. My questions will be tough, will be touching on some of the memories, so I really apologize in advance. Tell me what's happened October 7, 2023.
My brother went with 4 of his friends to the Nova Festival. He went there again to celebrate, to dance, to have fun, to celebrate brotherhood and peace, and meet people from all over the world.
2 of my friends, they called me and they said, oh my God, you're in Israel. We make a party, a big party. It's the Nova Festival. You need to come. And I said, okay, it's a good idea. We arrived to the party on 1 p.m. And until 6:30 in the morning, it was the best festival I was. We go to dance.
For me, October 7th started like a regular day. It was 6:30 in the morning, and we woke up by the alarms.
We woke up at 6:30 a.m. and there was sirens. So in Israel, we know that we have to run to the bomb shelter.
Like almost everyone in Israel, we woke up on October 7th to sirens.
And we went back to sleep because a missile attack is not enough a reason to stay awake.
And I can't tell you how imperative it is to watch that very moving and powerful documentary, Living to Die, about October the 7th. We were having a little bit of discussion, weren't we, Majed, when we're showing that extract of your excellent documentary, and that is who is kind of responsible for October the 7th, because Hamas did not do this alone. They had the backings of, for example, the Qataris to do this. They had huge backings of the Iranians that helped train them to do this as well. And had Hamas coordinated with Hezbollah, then October the 7th would have been maybe 1,000 times worse than what we actually saw. But there's also that big question mark over Egypt's role with this, because of all the weapons that were smuggled through the Rafah crossing from Egypt into Gaza as well, and the very sophisticated weapons that Hamas used on October the 7th couldn't have happened if they hadn't smuggled it in.
Let's make two things very clear. Actually, 3 points have to be very clear. Number one, the leadership of Hamas was in Qatar while they are planning for October 7th. The fact that Qatar did not do anything about it is one of the two things. Or Qatar knew and they are partner of October 7th, or the intelligence, according to what they say, they didn't know. This means that their intelligence is incompetent. Either way, Qatar loses. And when you are in my home committing crime, I should be kicking you out of my home immediately. This didn't happen.
Exactly.
This is number one. Number two, the Egyptians, they have to understand, they said that they control the border, they control the tunnels, they control the smuggling. This is not true. The Egyptians, even though they have many fights with Hamas and they don't like Hamas in general, because what they did during Mohammed Morsi, during Muslim Brotherhood when they took over, the Egyptians need to make a peace with them, so they allow the smuggling, they allow the tunnels, which led also many of the materials took place. But there is a third point. The third point that we have to look at Israel respond. The failure of intelligence of Israel about October 7, even though there was many red flagged. There was many red flag was flagged before October 7. Yep. The funds that went from Qatar that was allowed by Israel in an order they was hoping that this money will just silence Hamas and Hezbollah. When you give money, you have to have an accountability. I'm not giving you money until you remove from your schooling, from your education system, that you hate me and you want to destroy me. If you take this money because you want to build a school, show me the school. If you want to build it for a hospital, show me the hospital. But there was a lot of money was released by Israel to Hamas without accountability. They're just hoping that the problem will go away.
Absolutely.
It didn't. So we have to be honest with ourselves about what's the mistake that took place, and in order to correct it, for us not to repeat these mistakes again.
No, absolutely. And of course, what are your thoughts on how Israel has responded by this? Effectively destroying Hamas's military and terrorism capabilities, destroying 20 Hamas battalions, destroying their hundreds of terror tunnels, a network of terror tunnels, their ability to carry out another October the 7th, but of course the astonishing and more, which I would describe as a miracle, the destruction of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. And of course, with that circle of fire that the Iranians have spent decades and billions building has just collapsed over the past year. And we've also seen that the Iranian regime is air defenseless. They've lost their close ally, Bashar al-Assad, in Syria, with the rise of the influence of the Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS now in control of Syria. But share with us the kind of miracle that despite the horrors of October the 7th, God has been able to turn this situation around for Israel. And Israel was very weak on October the 7th, and now Israel's the most powerful nation in the Middle East today.
I would say it's not the first time that we see how God turning a very dark day to a light. We have to understand something very important, that Iran and their proxy, so all who you mentioned right now, that Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis in Yemen, Syria, and Bashar al-Assad, all of this was Iran arms in the region. You mentioned Hezbollah, you mentioned Hamas, but nobody mentioned that how Israel even did an operations inside Tehran itself, killing Yahya Ismail.
Absolutely.
And that's weakened Iran. Today, when we're talking about the Shias and in Iraq, how much they are scared, how much they are trying to disconnect now from Iran, we see the Houthis and how much they become weaker. We have to understand Iran in general have to be dismantled, not just because Israel, for their own people. I always say to the people, let's free Lebanon from Hezbollah. Let's free Iran from the Iranian regime. But the problem, be careful who is the replacement. So Bashar al-Assad left. Who took his place? We're talking about ISIS. We're talking about Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. That's the name of the organization. But it's ISIS. It's ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So you have to understand that this kind of operations, yes, is a miracle. Yes, it's very clever. We saw how they immediately destroyed between 4,000 to 6,000 fighters from Hamas with a pager and so on. But we have to understand it cannot be only Israel that's moving. Israel and the Arab countries, they are also powerful. Egypt is also extremely powerful nation in the Middle East. They have to move forward. The Emirates, Saudi Arabia. Israel cannot do it alone and cannot keep fighting alone. These Arab countries that they have similar problems with Iran, they have also to be side by side with Israel to end the Iranian regime once and for all.
Oh, absolutely. One aspect that you drew upon in your powerful documentary, Living to Die, was to interview Israeli experts and also the survivors of the Nova Music Festival on the horrific sexual violence that we saw, the mass rapings and the abuse, and the reaction to those Israelis you interview about the silence of the international community, the silence of international women organizations that don't seem to care about Jewish lives or what happened with the mass rapes committed by Hamas on October the 7th. You even interviewed a kind of Palestinian representative who didn't actually believe within Islam that Hamas would actually be capable of actually doing that. But all the evidence suggests that this is exactly what Hamas did, and using sexual rape as a weapon of war.
We saw that there is a denial of people denying October 7 even happened. The same thing happened with the Holocaust. The only thing here is that Hamas was live streaming. Hamas admit that October 7 happened. They was actually proud that October 7 happened. And they even left the messages. I saw some of the homes when I went inside in the kibbutzim. They left a message to the wall, in the walls, to the Jewish people that was living there. Oh, we'll come back, we'll kill you, and you will see us again. You will, you know. It was a threatening messages. The denial that we see is not something new. Happened during the Holocaust, it's happening now. But it's very important. That's why the people that watching us right now, they are very important in this fight. It's not just me and you and just not our show, but everybody sitting down, see the movie, act on it, and communicate with your representative in the government and even the local authority.
Absolutely. So let's go and have a look at a final extract of this compelling and powerful documentary film, Living to Die.
October 7 took place. When you received this news, how was your feeling as a mother, as a Muslim, and as a woman, and as a human rights activist?
October 7th revolutionized the way I think. I knew that there was evil, but October 7th just showed the world, and me especially, as a grandmother, as a mother, as a woman, as a Muslim, as an activist, as a human being, everything that could ever be wrong.
I didn't think it could happen. It was beyond any imagination of, we've seen what the enemy has done to Israel, can do, has tried to do. This was far beyond, it was pure evil. I can only listen to parts of it at a time. I have to kind of shut down, and I have a huge amount of empathy for everyone involved, and the ones who don't know if their families are alive, their kids are alive, or you know, their family members are alive.
What's your message to every Israeli father lost his son, his daughter, his brother in the massacre of October 7?
There is no pain greater. And there is nothing that I or anybody else can do about that pain. Nothing. Nothing. I would give everything I have, will ever have ever had to ease that pain for them or for me. But don't give in to hatred. In the memory of your child, don't give in to hatred. Defeat the ideology, but not the people. Kill the ideology that killed your child, but don't kill the people.
To the Hamas leadership, I want to say thank you. Thank you for uniting the Jewish people. Thank you for activating them. If there is one thing that you didn't learn yet, that when the Jewish community get attacked, they get activated. From the time of pharaohs all the way to the Nazis. There is one thing that the world tried to do over and over again, is to destroy them, break them, but somehow they always rise again because they know that God is with them. If there is one thing I like to tell Hamas, thank you for proving to us that after every night there is new morning carrying new day. After every storm there is sunshine. And after every persecution there is victory. Thank you for proving to us you can kill the dreamers, but no one can kill the dream.
Inspirational. The Jewish people live and Israel lives. I love the ending. Just amazing with that young boy waving and running with the Israeli flag. But I want to talk about one big aspect that you mentioned on the film as well. I mean, you would have thought after the Holocaust, and the Holocaust did happen, that the Jewish people won world sympathy for the absolute horror and the carnage committed by the Nazis during the Second World War. The industrial murder of over 6 million Jewish lives in the Holocaust. And we, as we record this program today, yesterday was the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Bergen-Belsen in Germany, one of the Nazi concentration camps. And here we are today, that instead of an outpouring of sympathy and support around the world for what happened to Israel and Israelis and foreign nationals on October the 7th, what we've had instead is this pandemic of Jew hatred around the world, and Jewish people in this country, in Canada, in the United States, across Europe, are thinking about making Aliyah to Israel because they'd sooner live in Israel than live here because they no longer feel safe. Share with us your thoughts on these mass pro-Palestinian demonstrations where they've been chanting for genocide against the Jewish people in the nation of Israel in our streets in London and also in Toronto.
Because anti-Semitism is alive and well. Not just call it the way it is. There is something very important that all of us have to understand. There is the new anti-Semitism and the old anti-Semitism and the new anti-Semitism. The old anti-Semitism, hate the Jews, kill the Jews. That was Hitler's speeches, if you listen to it. The new anti-Semitism that we see today is not about is about Israel, is about Zionist. So is the same speech what Hitler used to say. Is the same speech, hate, kill, the same thing. But instead of the word Jew, you would take it and you would put Israel or Zion. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot criticize Israel. Of course you can criticize Israel. In a matter of fact, nobody criticizes Israel more than the Jews. That's the truth. But you can criticize Israel, but it is the anti-Semitism. When you take from Israel two things, the right to exist and the right to defend itself. This is the anti-Semitism that we see. And you have to remember, and with my all due respect, I'm not trying to be politically correct here, so please forgive me, but this is who I am.
Like it.
When you have immigrants from different countries, many of them, I'm a migrant, I'm a refugee, I came to Canada as a refugee. But when you have people that they're coming, not respecting your tradition, your culture, your ability, your history, and they are trying to have their own hidden agenda, forcing their religion, their education, their disrespect to your culture, you are the one who's paying the price. So when you bring, I'm not saying not to help, I'm not saying not to bring people. I'm saying make sure when you do that, you bring people in that first need the help, second, they are willing to respect your home where they come.
Majed, can you just unpack for us how your documentary, Dying to Live, has brought reconciliation between Christians who have a heart and a love for Israel and the Jewish people, and Israelis and the Jewish people? Because what you've done through this documentary is powerfully tell Israel's narrative and the narrative of October the 7th.
Absolutely. When we're talking about reconciliation, you have to understand, as I said previously in the show, that the maker of this movie is an Egyptian Christian, and Christian before an Egyptian. And the reason of this, because there is many Christian organizations such as International Christian Embassy or Bridges for Peace, and many more such as your channel and your TV, that's supporting Israel. And we are Christians, we are not Jewish. But the very fact that this is an example, this is a testimony to show Israelis and the Jewish people, we're not just here by words, we're here by action. And that's because our Lord and Savior is the true Prince of Peace. And equally, as much as we love Israel, as much as we love the Jewish people, we also have heart to the peace of Jerusalem, and we have heart to the Muslims, and we pray for their salvations. Absolutely. This is the true message of Christ, and this is the true Christianity.
Wonderful. Majed, it's been an absolute pleasure to host you on the Middle East Report today. Thank you so much for sharing your own powerful testimony of how you came to faith in Jesus Christ and how he's given you a love for Israel and the Jewish people, and how you've really, through this amazing documentary, Dying to Live, have actually told the narrative of October the 7th, and this is something the world needs to see. So it's been an absolute pleasure to host you today, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And I just want to thank you for watching this program at home. Can I encourage you with all my heart to watch this powerful documentary, A Dying to Live, about October the 7th, because we need to know what happened on that evil day to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. So thank you for watching the Middle East Report.